This is Character Crusade number 26.
Whoa.
I can't believe it. 26. We say that every episode, though.
I kind of do.
Can't believe we made it. So I'm gonna shake it up this time and say I knew we would make it to 26. I absolutely did. There was no question in my mind ever.
Okay.
How do you like that?
I have profound doubts that was true. I'm kidding. Of course we're going to be here. Epic podcasts have a way of getting their own legs.
All right.
This one has pretty shapely legs.
It does. Cue the intro. I got to cool off after that whole shapely leg thing.
You're listening to Character Crusade.
Greetings, Crusaders. You're listening to Character Crusade Skyrim Roleplay Workshop. I'm Stu.
And there are those who call me Joe.
I'm just Matt over here.
And joining us tonight is Cal. Hello, Cal.
Hello, guys. How are you doing? It's a pleasure to be on your show.
It's great to have you. Cal is the, I guess, founder. We'll call it founder of Dirty Weasel Media, a YouTube channel. And that is where Cal does all kinds of interesting material, Let's Plays and mod reviews and tutorials and all kinds of cool stuff.
And let's be fair, Dirty Weasel is just an awesome thing to say over and over and over. Dirty Weasel, Dirty Weasel, Dirty Weasel, Dirty Weasel.
I know.
No, yeah, you can say it one too many times.
I think there's a story here, though, right, Cal? It's got to be.
There is always a story. And it seems like when I started the channel, I didn't really have a name for anything. And, I went back in time to my youth, my misspent youth, and I kind of thought about, names for bands that we wanted to start when we were all teenagers. And one of them was the Dirty Weasels. And
nice.
Oddly enough, I went on and I tried to buy a domain name, and sure enough, Dirty Weasel Media was available, and I bought dirtyweasel.com.
Nice.
Perfect.
And hence the channel was born, Dirty Weasel Media.
Nice.
And I get a little bit of gruff about that name. How can you call your channel such a bad name? I was like, well, Rusty and Trombone was taken.
Well, geez, it could be worse.
It could be a lot worse.
Yeah, Pocket Weasel. That's a completely different.
That's another good one. Yeah. But the channel started. I didn't even think it would turn out to be anything. I was just making videos for fun, so my friends and I could show each other play DayZ, and then I could start getting 100 subscribers, 200 subscribers. I'm like, holy cow! Then I reached in the thousands. I'm thinking I got to do something serious with this. So I turned to Skyrim and started doing tutorials for that, and moved on to Fallout New Vegas to kind of cut my chops on doing more tutorials, and now I'm working on the 2016 Skyrim modding guide, and it's actually been very, very positive for the channel as far as growth goes. So
Awesome.
yeah, it just shows the power of Skyrim, that it's still, even after 5+ years, it's able to capture people's imagination, and they're still interested there.
Yeah,
And still new mods coming out all the time that people want to know how to install.
And for those of us who are not noobs anymore, who are modding,
Why are you looking at me, Matt?
because you were making fun of my noobness.
I kind of was, because it's kind of over.
It is. It's sort of passe, and that's good, because now I've ventured into a totally different area, and I'm going to be grateful to hear about the whole modding guide.
Yeah,
we can't go
awesome.
back to that noob well anymore. Those days are over. So, well, this is great. It's good to have you on, and in the play theory segment today, we're going to talk a little bit about this intersection, right, between game performance and aesthetics, and how that affects our ability to enjoy the game and role play, and kind of have the immersive experience that we want to have. But first, I thought it would be good for us to just talk a little bit with you about your channel, some of the things that you have going on right now that you're excited about, anything you've got coming up that you want to plug for our listeners. Our listeners are all obviously into Skyrim, and most of them are modders, and they're looking for new things to try and interesting things to watch on YouTube and resources and stuff like that. So I think a lot of your content is going to be right up their alley.
Yeah, the guide was designed basically for the intermediate modder. It basically says that you have a basic knowledge of how Mod Organizer works, and because that's the tool I use mostly. But to go from a beginning rebuild of a game, in other words, you know how to use Mod Organizer, and you decide it's time to update everything to make it look pretty, to get new mods that may be out there that you haven't tried before, and to integrate them with existing mods that are the tried and true. So I try to show all the different options, try to show how to install different things, and you can make the choices on how you want to build your own game. And so far, we've gotten up to weathers. I just completed a guide for vivid weathers at the request of Mangaclub, the mod author. And I got to say, that, by the way, is a fantastic weather mod. And I wholeheartedly endorse its use, because it is absolutely beautiful. So as far as going in the future, we're going to look at the different tree mods. That's the next episode I'm working on right now. You got Skyrim Bigger Trees, and you've got SkySight Simply Bigger Trees. And of course, Skyrim Flora Overhaul just got an update to 2.25, 2.75. And it's, of course, Vurt does the best flora and tree mods. And that's the next one we're going to be covering.
Yep.
Great.
Yeah, I know. I'm using Skyrim Flora Overhaul, and I've selected the options for lush trees and all this kind of stuff, right? So when episode 5 comes out, probably later this week, people will be able to see Robard heading up towards the border to the House of Troubles, and that is an area where you can really see the impact of a mod like this. The trees look like the big redwoods, they're just gorgeous, and huge. I really love the way that it transforms the forest areas, particularly in the Falkreath areas.
Well,
where I notice
that's
it
a
the
really
most.
nice area to begin with.
Yeah, it is. It really is. So, well, that's cool.
I would install it right now, but I probably shouldn't.
No, don't.
Take your time. Take your time.
I'm making notes. All right.
All right, so you got the mod guide going on. I haven't watched all the episodes, but I've seen quite a few of them. And definitely Vivid Weathers is something that I want to talk about in our play theory segment, because it's directly related to a question I have that I want to pose to the whole group here. You're also, starting a Let's Play, an XCOM Let's Play, which has been kind of fun. I've watched an episode of that so far. You've got a couple episodes of that out, right?
Yeah, I've got 2 episodes of XCOM 2. It's an LP and a Let's Play. And what I decided to do is I was playing it as an aside between, when you're burned out on trying to record all the time, just play something for fun. And I liked it so much. And I don't usually do games like this because it's not an RPG. But I was having so much fun with it, I decided to bring my subscribers in, bring my commenters in, Twitter followers, the whole thing, and then throw in people like other YouTube channel creators, Nexus mod authors into the character pool so that they could become soldiers in the game. And I've gotten great response on that from people saying, oh, this is fabulous. I want to see myself in the game. And of course, you know, Stu, if you've watched any of the first episodes, I created Stu to make him look like Robard. So
yes. I've been cheering on Robard.
You can see Robard kill aliens. So in addition to killing bandits, he kills aliens quite well, actually. So
and I have to say, Robard cleaned up in the first episode, out killing everybody on the squad.
Wow.
So
and now he's a sniper as we go into. I have 5 episodes in the can, so we're releasing those on a progressive basis.
Awesome. That's
fantastic.
Great.
And of course, we'll get Stacks and the other guys in there, and
that'll be fun.
Get the Couch Warrior team involved in the taking back of Earth.
I'm looking forward to the first assault where all 3 of us are on the squad at the same time, because when that happens, we'll have to do something special on the podcast, because I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it's just fun to watch. I've never played XCOM, so for me it was just a kind of a new experience. I've watched a little bit of Jess's XCOM Let's Play and your XCOM Let's Play, and I've determined that it looks like the sort of game that I would actually really enjoy. But the one thing that it's done is the whole space environment, right, and the recent chatter, some of which has been unfortunately negative, about the release of the next installment of Mass Effect has gotten me that itch for epic space fantasy, that kind of a thing. I was a huge fan of the first 3 games. I never really fell into the trap of being upset with the ending or any of that crap. I just enjoyed the game so much, the mechanics, the world, and all of that stuff, that I've actually been seriously considering going back and just replaying those games because they're just so much fun to me, But I just suddenly I got that itch for epic, space opera kind of content.
Cool.
So
yeah, it's a great overarching story, despite what you may, as you mentioned, to the ending, but it's a great space opera, and it's a great overarching story that you follow Commander Shepard, and you can have different playthroughs based off of which path you want to follow, Paragon or Renegade, and it's one of my favorites. And when I heard that Andromeda was getting delayed, I was quite depressed, but at the same time I'm like, well, get it right this time, BioWare, which you have a hard time doing.
Yeah.
So Dragon Age Inquisition being a main example of that.
Right. It's such a gorgeous world and such a great story, and I loved the combat mechanics. So, after I had played through the single player twice on those games, I started playing the online multiplayer. And it was a little bit of a different animal, right? In multiplayer, there's no pause. So you gotta know what your biotic combos are, and you gotta know your weapons, and you gotta know your combat tactics and techniques and stuff like that, because there's no pausing the game to, pick the right combo. But once I got into it, there was a period of time where I was really addicted to it, and I was doing all the weekend jam sessions where you could put in so many hours and get, special weapons and stuff like that.
Oh, really?
It's a lot of fun.
Nice.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm hoping they get it right too. It's the reason I bring it up is just because your XCOM Let's Play started the itch, and it's honestly probably the only game I can think of right now that could probably drag me away from Skyrim for a while. Would be, something that took place in that Mass Effect universe. So love that game.
Yeah,
cool.
There's other in that genre that I'm looking forward to as well. You got the new Deus Ex coming out, which looks fabulous.
Yeah.
And Cyberpunk by CD Projekt Red is going to be coming sometime. And in my mind, CD Projekt Red is one of the best RPG makers out there, really. I mean, in my mind, Witcher 3 far surpassed Fallout 4. And it'll be heresy for me to say that, knowing my channel and my follower base. But Witcher 3 is just a fantastic game. And they did a excellent job with that. Tells a great story, and and it's a lot of fun to play. So I look forward to those two space type games, the futuristic games.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did talk about the family friendliness of Witcher 3 a few episodes ago, right? It's kind of thing to introduce your young children to, right?
Yeah.
Which actually goes into, my channel. I tried to, cut out all the nudity and profanity, and I was a little concerned that I might blurt out a few things in the XCOM 2, and I had to warn some of my normal subscribers. I sent them messages. I know you let your children watch my show. Don't let them watch this.
Well, and there are times when that happens. I think that there are lots of things in game that might surprise us if younger folks came across them on their own. Sometimes being able to show that in a Let's Play is kind of an important part to the playthrough. For me, it isn't something that I necessarily need to focus on. There's lots of other folks in plenty of other game styles that do their modding to make that either more aggressive, if that's the right word, or inclusive. Not a big focus of mine either.
I was just thinking about that very thing too. Early on when we started this podcast, we were, having a little bit of a debate about, okay, is this going to be, do we want to label what we're doing as explicit content or not? We ended up just putting the E on there because
it's just easier.
We wanted to be sort of free to say whatever we were going to say in the moment.
Because otherwise editing turns into a huge headache. And
yeah. And it's kind of the same way with my Let's Play now too. I mean,
nice tomatoes.
For the most part, Fleet's Let's Play was very clean. There was really nothing, like that about it. But then when I was kind of toying around this concept of Robard, I'm like, you know what? He needs to be able to say what he needs to be able to say, whatever's in character, right? But, I don't go bananas with it. But I like the liberty of, having Robard have the ability to say shit, like if he needs to say it, But if he runs into a really ugly orc woman on the road, for example, you can say shit. You got to be able to say that.
But it is good that the tools give us the ability to warn folks a little bit. So
yeah.
Which basically means anytime you see Robard, get prepared.
That's right. I thought about it. Like, should I put I should put a disclaimer on there. Just like, Robard's going to say what he's going to say. We can't control Robard. He's his own man.
Robard's kind of got a little Tourette's problem. And
exactly. So
we love him for it. Thank you, Joe.
Okay, Cal, anything else you want to plug?
No, that's it for now. I try to support the community as much as possible, and I encourage people to always donate to their mod creators, because with the whole pay for modding scandal kind of came out, we know it's coming back, but we want to keep the modding community healthy and happy. And so I always encourage my viewers to donate to their favorite modders. So that's about all I want to plug, is give back to the community and support them as best you can. Yeah,
we would also fully endorse that. And speaking of endorsements, it would be, endorse. If you can't support in the way of a donation, an endorsement is a great way.
And I found that as I'm looking for new mods, since I'm still getting into it, I look at endorsement counts. I really do. And you find out which ones bubble to the top, and they make a difference. I think people are sort of voting with their, with the best mod.
It's kind of your first initial reaction of, is this something that I should look into? Without really investing a whole lot of time into it. If it's got a lot of endorsements, if it's got 25,000 endorsements, it's probably something worthwhile looking at.
And has been tested and tried and works in just about every situation, which is
Absolutely.
great.
Now, there are the under the radar ones with, 100 or less that turn out to be really good, but
brand new ones.
You got to look for those.
Yeah, and the only way that you're going to get the new ones is to try a few of those.
Yep.
I had a couple ruin the mod load order, and it would just seize up. Uncheck it, try it again.
That happens.
All right.
Yeah, sometimes it's trial and error, and sometimes you can find good instructions. Some modders, depending on the complexity of their mod, may have fairly extensive descriptions on how to install, and compatibility and all that kind of stuff. The stuff that we've built here at Character Crusade thus far hasn't required a ton of install instructions.
No, it's been pretty top level or pretty.
Exactly.
They're not real invasive.
It doesn't require a lot of other stuff to make it work. Although you say having dyed capes is helpful. So
yeah. Well, with that, I think we should dive into our play theory segment.
Let's do it.
Let's talk a little bit about modding, shall we? Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to our play theory segment. And tonight we are going to be discussing the intersection of game performance and aesthetics. So it's great to have Cal joining us for this conversation. We had talked earlier in the week, had a great phone call where we discussed some of the different things that might be good topics for the show tonight. And this whole issue came up, right, of game immersion, and for those of us who are really into role playing, we're playing Skyrim for the role play experience. There's always this kind of balancing act, right, between how do I get my game to look as beautiful as it can look given the hardware I have to increase immersion,
right?
Well, at the same time, maintaining the frames I need to also promote immersion, right? So it doesn't do a lot of good to have a really sexy looking game if you have so much lag that it's difficult to play and you're losing the immersive qualities of the game just because you've got lag or you've got low frames or whatever it is.
Stuttering.
So we thought that would be just kind of a great general topic for us to use to frame up a discussion of mods, how they're put together, ways that we could use them, some of Cal's experiences around testing mods and creating his videos for his mod guide and so forth, and just talk generally about this topic of immersion, because I think that more often than not, when we think about immersion, we think about things like, oh, I'm going to run this ENB and everything's going to look ultra realistic, without appreciating the fact that when we run that ENB, we're dropping frames, and maybe that's just going to end up in the end hurting our immersion.
Right.
So.
Correct. Correct. One of the things I started out with that guide is to say to myself, how do I get the best bang for my buck? And I want to keep it at 60 frames per second for video purposes, and as well as I hate frame rate slowdowns because you can actually feel it. It changes the feel of the game. And like you said, it breaks that immersion, and you start focusing on the performance of your rig and your game instead of just playing the game and being the character. And so that's obviously one of the things I look at, and the intersection between the two. And, as far as like ENBs go, I have a totally different theory than most people do. And I think that's a trap that a lot of, early modders make. And I have a rig and I can do this, and look at all these great pictures. And I call them screen archery. And they really aren't really designed for play. They're not. They're designed for taking pretty pictures. And I try to avoid that. Right. In the guide.
Yeah. Well, let's get into that a little bit. I mean, one of the things that we had talked about earlier in the show was your review of Vivid Weathers, and you had highly recommended that. I'd like to maybe let's use that quickly as kind of a discussion to talk about your methodology, because I know that you do a lot of testing of mods.
I do.
And that is part of your process when you do a review. Obviously, you want to know what it's going to do. You want to understand it backwards and forwards so that you can kind of make an intelligent recommendation or give an intelligent explanation of how this thing works. Tell us a little bit about kind of what your process is about, and then let's talk a little bit about Vivid Weather, since that's the most recent entry into your mod guide.
Sure, I use a couple different tools. I do use ENBoost to improve the performance of the game, but it also allows me to take off frame rate caps and to put a frame rater up in the corner of my screen. I can see what it's doing at any given time. And then I also use Skyrim Performance Monitor to monitor the game, and for whatever reason I can't get the on-screen display while I'm in game, but I can go back and I can look at video RAM usage as I go through different areas using different combinations of mods. And it's a lot of it is feel and testing, because even though your frame rate may not go down, you may experience more micro stutters or little lags that you can't really account for. And those are performance spikes that you'll need to see. And a tool like Skyrim Performance Monitor will show me those spikes and tell me when the game is loading a large amount of graphics to, cause a buffering in the memory of your GPU. So by trying to balance things out, I look at, the different performance for the different options of any given mod. So I was recently testing for actually just shooting footage for not vivid landscapes, but vivid weathers. And I threw in, just without testing for interaction, I threw in Skyrim Flora Overhaul, and I threw in enhanced landscapes to try and create a better picture for these screenshots for just the showcase portion of vivid weathers. And I kept getting weird performance issues, and I realized, oh wait, I didn't change my Skyrim.ini, my Skyrim prefs.ini to account for the grass or to account for the number of foliage. And it's that interaction that a lot of modders don't know about, and the guide tries to get through that. I try to mention things like that. So those type of tools are very helpful, but for performance sake, a lot of it is just feel. How does this feel on my screen as I run through this field of lupins and into a forested area that has all Skyrim Flora Overhaul type trees in it? Or, most notably, you go through Morthal and you're running through the swamp. Enhanced Landscapes has different options, and that may have performance issues, and you have to look at it. And then you throw in other weather things, a weather event pops up, and boy, that rain looks great, but what does it do to my frame rate? Is it dropping it? Is it causing a performance spike when that rain hits? So tools like that are a big plus in, helping me understand what the game is doing.
Yeah, and I think that's where a lot of people's either experience or patience falls flat, right? I think there's a lot of us who would just say, I want to install some mods and I don't want to have to think about it, right? But I think in particular, when you start getting into those kinds of environmental mods, the landscape mods, the weather mods, the lighting mods, that's the point at which you really need to decide whether or not you're planning on paying attention.
Right.
And because so many of those require any file tweaks and stuff like that.
Right. To be fair, I didn't, when I
crazy.
put realistic lighting overhaul in, I didn't know what all kinds of tweaks there were, and I don't think I was getting anything good out of it as a result, so I turned it off until I can learn more about what I need to do with it.
Right.
Otherwise, I'm just wasting CPU. So
Yeah, it's kind of amazing. I've been playing the game for a long time, and when I finally got to that point where I had committed to the idea of just uninstalling Skyrim and starting over, my approach to putting my set of mods together was very different than it had been in the past. Before, it was just like kid in a candy store. This looks good. Load it, load it, load it, load it, right? And this time around, I kind of had a pretty good idea what was out there, and I started making a categorized list and said, okay, if I'm going to try to come up with some kind of common setup that's going to work across all of my character profiles, what is that going to be? So I got in there and started doing, probably not to the same extent that you are. I had a sort of a heads up view for my frame rate, and I would do things like I would load Skyrim Flora Overhaul and everything it had to offer, right? And I'd go in and find a couple spots, and I'd run around in those spots and monitor my frame rates, right? And then I'd pull that stuff out. And then I'd use a different profile, and I would test something else. So it was kind of like trying these different things to figure out what would give me the best combination of aesthetics and frame rate. And my method was pretty unsophisticated. It was pretty much just, I'm going to go to the same spot, and here I'm going to try the whole vivid landscape package.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to pull that out, and now I'm going to try it with the whole Flora Overhaul package, right? And just compare and contrast my frame rate. So that's kind of how I did it. And, I was making trade-offs all along the way to say, you know what, I like this aspect of the Flora Overhaul, but I like this aspect. I like the, the vivid rocks better because I like, how it looks. that kind of thing. And so I came up over the course of time with this kind of mishmash of different things that I liked how they looked aesthetically, and I felt like I was getting good performance. But then at that point, it was like, boom, I got to freeze this in time, right? I got to, so, I was making different sort of profiles along the way to say, this is my environment setup. Okay, this is my character setup. Okay, this is my, combat AI setup. And then incrementally testing along the way. So it probably took me 4 weeks to get through all of that, to the point where I felt like my environment was established well enough and running well enough that I was confident that I could start creating characters, and they'd be characters that I could play through to later levels and not worry about having issues.
But really, you're talking effectively about set design.
That's exactly what I was doing. Yeah, I was doing.
You have to have patience with set design, or you find the faults in the set, and that will, that not only distracts you as a person playing through, but it would distract the viewer as well.
Yeah. I guess my constraints were a little bit uncommon in that I needed to have 7, 8, 10
functional profiles,
characters, all of whom had a similar environment, a consistent environment. So I wasn't worried so much about, individual characters and what is my world going to look like this time. It was, I got these 10 characters and the world needs to look the same for all of them. What's the best setup?
So I think to that question, Cal, when you're doing your testing, do you have a specific character that you use that's consistent across all of your testing?
I do, and I call her Fiona. I used to call her the crash test dummy, CTD, which I always thought was ironic, crash to desktop and crash test dummy. And I've actually purposefully left her save is just trashed, and that's one of the things that one of the reasons why I use her is that when you run your script log and you start looking at it, hers is just horrendous. And that actually will aid me in finding problems, because like the average user, she is going to reflect that modder who has added mods and taken away mods and put things in. How does that work? And then I have others that you'll never see that are pure. And then how does that work? And, that sort of thing. But, I view the building of the Skyrim right now as building a cake, and there's different layers, and those layers build outward from the character. I started out with how you create the character, then how the character looks, then the surrounding environment is where we're at now. And then it'll build like an onion kind of farther and farther out away from the character. So, right now we're in landscapes, and then we'll move on to textures and, those sort of things. And then eventually I'll say, okay, everything is done. The cake is fully built now. I can now add in things that will help with the mechanics of the game. If you're, want to go pure survival, well, we're going to talk about Frostfall. We're going to talk about Campfire. We're going to talk about those sort of things. You can go down that direction, or you can go to, different classes and the, warrior versus thief versus mage, and go down those directions that you can have different profiles on. But it's building that whole cake. And ironically, ENB is the last thing I talk about, because I don't feel that it's a necessary part of the game. To have a great experience, to have a beautiful game, you don't need to do those things. You don't need to have an ENB. If your system can afford it, throw on that icing on the cake, and you can have what you really, really want to have as far as perfection as the appearance of the game goes. But that's a common problem that a lot of, beginning modders see these pictures and see videos done by guys like Hoddleton, who is probably, in my opinion, the best, YouTuber out there for creating visuals. But he's got a tuned system that is not designed for play. So he showcases ENBs because it's a very popular genre for videos, but that's not really a play setup. You want to play the game. You don't just want to make pretty pictures. So if you can handle at the end, throw an ENB on that will not affect your performance and will not decrease the enjoyment of the game by decreasing your frame rate so much. But, people getting excited by pretty pictures and they want to throw in an ENB, and then that causes all sorts of other problems. So get a setup you like, build from there, go down to branches with different profiles for the type of characters you want, and then throw an ENB on top of it if it works for you.
Yeah.
because it should be one of the last things you consider, not one of the first, and that's a common modding mistake.
Yeah, that's an interesting point.
That's good advice, actually.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah, thanks for
agree.
pointing that out before I make that mistake.
I know, right?
I wouldn't have done that
That's
at all,
rich.
ever. I would never even thought about doing anything so crazy as that.
Well, myself, I know my machine, I know cannot handle. I know it can't handle ENB, so it's not even a consideration. So, but
Yeah.
there are a lot of people out with good rigs that might just go straight to that. Pretty
I like the
picture.
idea of adding it on last, though, because then you get all the gameplay components to it. Then it gets all pretty.
Yep, absolutely.
Right. And then choose an ENB that works well for
Right,
that
there's
setup.
a lot of different ENBs, as I know Stu can attest to.
Yeah, there are some ENBs that are very specifically made for getting screenshots, you know?
Yeah.
And those are great
Well,
for
and-
screenshots, but if you want to have a playable ENB, that's a very different thing.
That's
Well,
the
and what's your
difference.
play style too? I mean, are you going for kind of a horror theme, or are you going for just outright
would be really
gorgeousness? Or I mean, what?
See, that's the thing. I'd be kind of disappointed once you get past the game cinematics and into the real gameplay. I'd feel like I'd been fooled again by the game companies. Oh, look at what it could look like. No, just kidding. You thought it was going to look like this. Now it looks like Pac-Man. So,
Well, the beauty of Skyrim, though, is that it's a very forgiving game. I mean, you can play this game on a machine with very minimal settings if you want.
No, I'm using onboard video graphics.
Yeah, I mean it's incredible.
Yeah.
You know, so you can run the gambit. So I think that's a wonderful thing about Skyrim, and I think that's part of the secret to its longevity. The fact that you can play it on so many different kinds of rigs, and still have a great experience.
I think we've talked a little bit about what we've got from an equipment standpoint. Cal, what are you typically doing your testing and playing on?
My rig is recently rebuilt. I'm using an i7 4790K. I think I boosted up to around 4.3, 4.4 right now. I use a single GTX 980 Ti 6 gigabyte for my GPU. And I generally run the game at about 1440, which is my native monitor resolution. So I actually stress it by playing it at 1440, which most people don't. And that, just kind of increases the difficulty level so I can see the performance drops more readily. If I played it at 1920 by 1080, I would never see it. It would be solid, 60 frames per second all the time.
Right.
Even turning off the FPS cap, I would be at 120, 140. That's not a real indicator of what someone can use. So it does make a difference. So I try to stress it as much as I can. But the rig is fairly powerful. I don't run SLI because I think it causes more trouble than it's worth sometimes. But it runs very, very well, and it runs Skyrim beautifully. But I'm looking for the little spikes, and that's why I use a performance monitor to tell me exact numbers. It's I could run the game at 60 frames per second all day long and never see a difference. I would see lag issues from the memory. One of my videos, I went on to a rant about Microsoft and NVIDIA messing up the DirectX 9. Oh my god! And how I have this
Nerd
set up. And then I realized, oh wait, I'm only using 4 gigabytes of all this beautiful power. Damn it, you bastards! And so even with that restriction, I don't have any performance issues, and if I run it at 1080, so that's why I stress it as much as I possibly can, and have to have those numbers because not everybody can.
Right.
And most people aren't going to be running this super, PC master race rig. So I do try to balance things out. And the guide is always looking for ways to enhance performance, but have a beautiful look. I did an entire episode on eyeballs and why you didn't need 4K eyes. And I realized, I had a bunch of screenshots of these different eyes at different resolutions, and the standard play distance, and I kept getting closer and closer and closer, and you couldn't tell the difference between a vanilla eye and these 4K super eyeballs. And that shows you kind of that relationship between resolution that you can see and you can play versus, just I'm going to take an ultra close-up of, just someone's eyes. So it really depends on how you want to play the game. If you're just taking screenshots, you don't need to have 4K resolution. Or if you're just taking screenshots, 4K resolution, sure. Who cares if your frame rate's 15? But if you want to play the game, a series of 1 and 2K resolutions across the board will present a great game without having the FPS issue on a lower rig. And I remember playing the game on a GTX 650 Ti. Great little card, but I could see frame rate losses with certain things. That's what taught me when I came back and rebuilt the rig, that I needed to kind of balance things out a bit and not go with 4K everything, 2K, tomatoes.
Yeah, I know.
Right.
The super immersive 4K tomato. I don't.
Yeah.
Well, it's so easy to get caught in that trap of all the uber high res this, that, and the other thing.
Yeah.
It's so easy to get caught in that trap and then realize that you're really not gaining anything.
Yeah.
Not in gameplay, anyway.
No.
Yeah.
It's a nice reminder.
I think so too. One of the things that I find interesting, and I'd mentioned this earlier, was this idea of vivid weathers, right? So, I did invest a lot of time getting set up and getting prepared to do this Let's Play. And, I'm inclined to treat that setup to basically say, this is codified, this is set in stone, I'm not going to change this, because if I do, I'm opening myself up to this risk, right? But then what happens is things like Vivid Weathers come along, right? Where it's not just another weather mod. It's a weather mod where a single mod could conceivably replace the 5 or 6 that I'm using in combination right now to produce some of the same effects, and to be something that's more recent, right? And presumably, created with the combined weight of past testing of all these other mods, right? So what I've got right now is a setup where, I'm using probably 5 or 6 different mods, including Climates of Tamriel, right? And, Supreme Storms and True Storms and the Weather Patch and all these different things, right?
Right.
And so I think this comes up a lot. I had this experience as well when I was watching your review of the Claralux mod, because Claralux is something that originally I had stayed away from because there were some issues with it, but it's since been reworked, right? And now there's one mod there, Claralux, that could take care of not only some of my lighting things that I like, but could also add additional lights and do the street lamps and do all the stuff that I'm doing right now with 4 different mods.
Right.
And so I think one of the questions that I have, and I think a lot of people have, is, how does a person know when it's safe to pull stuff out and replace it with something else? Some of those mods, you can pull them out and put other stuff in. I mean, obviously things like textures and stuff, you can pull textures out and not have, a huge impact on your saved game. But there's other things really where, once you're down the road, if you want to make a change like that, it's kind of a significant thing. And so one of the questions I always have is this predicament of, something here is better. I wished that I had used it from the start. Is this a scenario where I can go back and implement this thing? Or am I better off sticking with what I have and just sucking it up, right?
Right.
It's difficult because I'm at a point here where I'm very, very close to the maximum number of mods that I can run in this game. So, I think that's a fairly common thing, and I know I suffer from it all the time.
Most commonly, you're going to have issues with mods that have a large number of scripts because they live script fragments, and then because of the way they wrote the code, if that mod isn't there anymore, you're going to ruin some other aspects of the game. So anything with a large number of scripts, I would never replace in the middle of. Textures, of course, are just textures and meshes. You can change those at any given time. Something like vivid weathers may have more of an impact because of the scripting of the weathers themselves. You may have an issue if you replace Clams of Tamriel, which is actually very similar in structure to vivid weathers. You may have an issue, you may not, but you're replacing all those other mods that you had, and on top of it, all the storm mods, all those other things, you could be looking at some real issues. And the only way to tell that is to go into your logs and know how to wander your way through TS5 edit and look at the strings, look at orphan scripts, and use something like Save Game Cleaner and see how bad that damage is of taking out a major group of mods like Clams of Tamriel and all your other ones on top of it. So you have to get into your Papyrus logs and look at string, look at orphan scripts, and try and repair it. A Save Game Cleaner like that may help, but nothing's foolproof. And that's why any big changes I would never recommend doing mid-game. But like you said, Vivid Weathers is a great one, and I would be almost biting at the bit to really change that over if you wanted to have a different experience. But you're going to have to go back in a farther save and hope that the damage isn't too significant.
Right.
So that is always a major concern when doing something like that. So, I don't know the exact damage because I don't have an old save to test what removing Vivid or what removing Clams of Tamriel would do, and then putting in Vivid Weathers. I don't have any analytical data to show you. So you'd have to test. But I'm sure there's a lot of smarter guys than me out there that know all this stuff. But there was a great article on the forum, on the Nexus forums, about strings recently and how those strings will interact. Even something like Claralux, I took it out to do some testing on something else, and holy crumb, the problems I had were weird lighting in the entire game, and I couldn't figure out why. I'm like, oh, that's right, I took Claralux out. And so something, even though the save wasn't that much older, just taking that one thing out, it did change things on an existing save. So you got to be careful with that. Vivid Weathers, like you said, great mod, but it does change a lot, and it does add a lot that an older save mid-game may not be the best choice. And things like Frostfall, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Percus Maximus, absolutely not. You can't add it mid-game, can't take it out mid-game. So you have to know your mod, read all the descriptions. A lot of times you have to go into the post section and get into the nitty-gritty and see what's going on and what people are saying.
Yeah. I think one quick indication of how invasive a mod is in terms of scripts is just to look how extensive the post section is. You don't even have to go in there and look, see how many posts there are. If there's a lot of posts in there, usually it's because it's a mod that's complicated enough that people have all kinds of configuration questions.
Correct.
And you'll see that right off the bat. So
yeah, and someone like Chesko is kind of an abnormality in the modding scene. I mean, he has entire web pages devoted to configuration and explaining the mod and going into all the details of what it is beyond just the Nexus page. So, but most mod authors don't offer that much. And if you start talking to the people in the post section, you can find out a lot of good information. And there's other good resources such as the step guides. Even if they don't include it in their step guide completely, a lot of mods you can find on there that they've had their own discussions of it. And those guys, you want to talk about testing? I'm a piker compared to those guys for testing. They break it down to the nitty gritty and get into the exact coding of why something happens and the interactions thereof. So there's lots of resources, a lot of smart guys out there that can give you the answers you need, but you have to be able to, willing to read and to research for major changes like that.
I think just kind of at arm's length, really anything that introduces scripts you should be wary of just pulling in and out willy-nilly.
Correct.
Because they are going to wreak havoc to a degree. Maybe it's minor and not noticeable, but maybe it isn't to your save game. So if it's a scripted mod, don't just pull them in and out willy-nilly. Spend some time, look at the pages, and read and research, and
Do your homework.
Do your homework.
Yeah, and I think doing your homework includes some kind of test profile.
Yeah.
Get it into a test profile first before you load it into your favorite, most precious character's profile.
I mean, there's some
and just
amazing, fantastic
out.
scripted mods out there that, I probably would not go without. But,
Right.
It sounds like everybody should set up a test dummy profile no matter what.
yeah,
that wouldn't hurt.
Here we call him Chester Tester. But
Well, I call him Tester Molester,
but that's just Joe because
but that's just me.
Yeah,
Because he drives around in a van that says free candy on the side.
exactly.
It's white and it's large and it has no windows.
It sounds like an ice cream truck. And Chesko, by the way, is the creator of Frostfall. I guess that's the most well-known mod, but
Which
he's done
is
quite a few.
Amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing. I love it. The only mod that I've done, I think, that includes the only mod I've published that includes any scripts is the Smuggler's Barrels.
Right.
That's got a couple of different scripts running in it. It was
I
fairly
think-
light.
Yeah,
script side.
in the grand scheme of things, it's
Yeah.
pretty
Not
scripted light.
too sophisticated. Yeah.
Right.
But
And there are other ways to kind of smooth out some of the different discrepancies between mods. Something that doesn't get discussed enough is merge patches, bash patches, and hopefully soon smash patches. So those are integral tools to kind of smooth things out for you. But scripts are always going to be a problem.
Yeah.
And
Well-
taking a script out is going to create
well,
issues.
they just kind of embed themselves so integrally into your game.
Yeah. Here's a good one for you, Cal. Maybe you can help to kind of explain for listeners what a bashed patch is. I have not used Rybash extensively, and frankly, I know that I could probably be making use of it in ways that would help me a lot, but I've never gotten into it. I've recently begun to use TS5 Edit to clean a lot of things. I've recently learned how to repair broken nav meshes and those kinds of things, but I've never gone down the road yet of creating and actually implementing in play a bashed patch. So what exactly
Right.
is that, and how does it work?
Skyrim, primarily, you should be using a merge patch for most things, but a bash patch for Skyrim, and there are distinct differences between a bash, Rye Bash, and Rye Flash. Rye Flash is primarily designed for Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, and it is actually much more powerful tool than Rye Bash for Skyrim. For Skyrim, I would probably just leave the functionality of using bash tags for the leveled lists. And when you go through and you start to learn how to use Rye Bash effectively, those are the only two things you would do. And the level lists and a few of the others, I'd have to go into my notebook to really get into what you should be doing. But level list is what Rye Bash does best. So when used in conjunction with a merge patch using TS5 Edit, the two of them together really smooth out a lot of those discrepancies. So you'll see things be placed appropriately on bandits and loot chests for your level and distribute them to the right characters. A lot of times, as you add more mods, things will not be appearing correctly as far as skills and traits according to the level list along with the equipment. So a Rybash patch kind of puts all those items in the correct places. So if you use something like Wintermyst, you need a bash patch. You just do. If you use something like Immersive Armors and Immersive Weapons, even though they have their own level lists, because you need them to integrate with all the other item mods that you may have out there, you have to integrate them together, and that's where a bash patch comes in. And it uses a system of tags. Tags are basically just, sorting mechanisms to tell the program what to do, what it's going to be selecting for merging in together into a single patch. But primarily, like I said, it's limited. Now, you talk to guys like Charlacran and the other smart guys that work on the Xedit project, it's going to become more powerful with time, and they're slowly working on it. Hopefully in the future, Mator the Eternal will get his Smash patch patcher completed, and it will combine everything into one system. You can use a merge patch and a bash patch all in one thing. But it's not ready for public consumption, in my opinion. I think it's a powerful tool, but it's not there yet. So a merge patch is what you're going to be using primarily to iron out those discrepancies, but then you'll have to take out the level lists and names and stats from your merge patch and only use those in the bash patch. So you actually have to run it twice. So patchers are another topic that I have strong feelings on, but those are the two patchers that are almost imperative as you get farther and farther into mods. And I'm sitting at about 40 mods right now, maybe 50. And it's getting to that time where I'm thinking, yeah, it's getting to the merge patch, bash patch episode where I talk about it.
Well, I'm looking forward to that one because I'm running a lot of mods, and I don't really know when it's appropriate for me to make a patch and what I should be patching for or why I would patch. I mean, my perception right now is that my game is running properly. That's my perception, but that doesn't mean it necessarily is.
Right.
I'm kind of the exception to the rule in that I'm off the hook, right? I mean, I'm not playing the game necessarily for myself. I'm also playing it for the audience, and I get to edit the experience the audience has through my gaming. Mm-hmm. So more often than not, I'm presenting them with what I want them to see to tell the story properly, which means I can go in there and I can edit things at will and do what I want to. But for those people who are just playing the game to have the experience, I don't think, it's necessarily obvious all the time when a patch is necessary or when something's going on in game that may be inappropriate or maybe somehow hurting the continuity of the story experience, for example. I know that one of the things that I love using is the archery overhaul. I love the archery overhaul. And the main thing that I like about the overhaul is just the animations. I think the new archery animations that are provided by that mod are amazing. Right. But there are other things that are added by that mod. And one of the things I've noticed that is added by that mod is it's supposed to add 4 new enchanted rings to the game that will kind of bestow some kind of a enchantment on your arrows as you're drawing them, right? So there's one for fire and one for magic and one for ice, and there's a 4th one. I can't remember what it's called, but there's only supposed to be 4 of them in game. And I've noticed that there are some locations I can go to where I will find 2 or 3 of those rings of the same kind of ring in one location. Right. And to me, this strikes me as probably something that would be remedied with a bash patch.
Correct. That's exactly the usage of it.
Okay.
Now, the effects of Archery Overhaul, that's where you need a merge patch because of the way it affects the magical effects in the game. It will overwrite other things. So a merge patch is going to help with that. That's the effects, the magical effects. And the actual items will be affected by the bash patch. So that's where you can see there's 2 different usages because the merge patch doesn't do level lists very well, but a merge patch or a bash patch does. So you'll see less of those rings by using a bash patch. So it's you got to have both, unfortunately, and until you actually get in and you start really testing and looking at it, you really don't know what you're going to be getting. And that's where TS5 Edit is a valuable tool for me. I will create a merge patch and just look at what it's affecting. And it will give you all the ones it's merging together, and it'll give you a master list that it needs. And then you can actually go into the patch itself and see what it's overwriting. And you'll find things that the unofficial, the Use Sleep patch, the unofficial Skyrim Legendary Edition patch, which is imperative to have, another mod may make a change that overwrites that. And because of that nature of that interaction, because it comes after, you create a merge patch, and it's going to carry over that later mod overwriting the Use Sleep. And that's going to show you indications that you have issues, or you could potentially run into issues that a unofficial patch like Use Sleep is designed to correct. So you have to know what you're getting into that, and the only way to do that is to learn and read and talk to people about how to make changes, delete references and form IDs.
And let's be clear, it takes a lot of freaking research, because when you think about it, you're using a combination of tools, each of which individually is a decent tool, but built for a specific task. And so, if you're talking about running a game where you're coming close to your maximum number of mods, for example, you're talking about using something like, Mod Organizer, TS5 Edit, Loot,
Rybash.
Right.
You're talking about all of these plus, something like, Skyrim Perfmon, to monitor how you're doing. Just getting your arms around all the details about each one of those individual tools work is it can seem like a really daunting thing. And I've been doing this for a while, and I haven't even begun yet to explore bash patching other than to create one test patch once and use it. I'm still working on TS5 Edit, and kind of getting through that process. So there's a lot.
Each tool is extensive and really good at what it does. But getting to the point of understanding what it does can be a little daunting.
For sure.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Loot, and I just completely overlooked it because it's such a daily thing for me, is running Loot. I probably run Loot 8-10 times a day. What is this doing? If I move this up here, what is that doing to my load order? And sometimes Loot says, no, it's fine there. We don't need to move it. Then you move it someplace else. Oh, hell no, we don't want it there. You just told me I could put it anywhere. What is wrong with you?
Yeah.
Right.
And that's where you have to run it multiple times with, saying, okay, let's move it up a little bit further. Just a couple steps up. No, we can't have that. Okay, well, that tells me something good. And then I can go into TS5 Edit and look at it. And there are other tools. You talk about getting to the 255 limit. There's Xedit merge plugin scripts, and that's not even included in Xedit. And you have to go get that script from someplace else and insert those scripts into TS5 Edit. And
Wow.
and create bash tags so that it will run better if you add bash tags, because some mod authors don't include the correct bash tags.
Well, this brings to mind a situation that Joe and I are running into here with the House of Troubles.
Yes.
One of the things part of the reason that we made the House of Troubles in the first place is we wanted a mod that was kind of a nexus or a central point upon which we could launch other mods.
Yep.
Correct.
So one of the things that we're doing is we're taking all the writing that Joe's doing and all of Spurious's notes and journals and stuff and making them into in-game books. And we thought, wouldn't it be great if we had a way that a person could download the House of Troubles, but then download a separate mod that would insert our books into a bookcase in the House of Troubles. And so that started me down this road of like, okay, I know this is possible, but how does this work, right? And so I reached out to Rolfin, and he's a mutual friend of ours. And
That's a great guy.
I said, how the hell does this work? And he's like, well, what you need to do is you need to put these into a leveled list. And he said, there's an easy way and there's the hard way, and here are the benefits of each. And he said, like, you can take an existing leveled list from somewhere in the vanilla game and you can drop your stuff in there and reference that leveled list in your mod. Or you can use this other method to create your own leveled list, but you need this tool and this tool and this tool to make sure that you're not naming it the same as someone else's leveled list or have any of the same form IDs, so that you don't screw up the whole nexus.
Yeah,
it's
complicated.
And
Don't cross the stream.
I know,
Don't cross the stream.
and he's like, method A, method B, and I looked at method B and I'm like, oh hell no, I am not doing that. I'm not going to be that guy. I'm not going to be that guy who screws up like 50 mods across the Nexus because I screwed up some form ID, right?
You named it
Right.
It's bananas. And when you get to the point where you're making mods, then you've reached an entirely new threshold of crazy. I mean, that's when it just really gets, beyond, beyond all the player tools and into the development tools. And it's like, oh my God, what have
Which
I
is
gotten
why it's
into?
such a good idea that one of the first things you release is an enormous structure that you can interact with.
Yeah. So that's why when we release our book mod, we're using a vanilla leveled list so that our books are going to actually appear in the Mage College and in the House of Troubles if you happen to have it. But
Yeah.
it's just crazy. So,
Yeah, and the creation kit is something that I've played with, and I use it as a reference just to look at mods, to dig around in the scripts to see what's going on. But I realized, oh man, I can't make mods. I just can't, because that is a rabbit hole that never ends.
Creation Kit is amazing.
Yeah, ain't nobody got time for that. At least not in what I do. Having a full-time career and trying to do this on the side. I told Stu this. I spend probably 20 hours per video.
Wow.
I can't imagine
That's amazing.
doing mods on the side. Something like what Gopher does or did was to create mods and do videos and to try and run a family life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why that's all he does now is make videos.
Mm-hmm.
So he has time to do that. But yeah, it's a daunting task, and my admiration for people like Eleonora, talk about structures.
Oh, yeah.
The time and care she puts into each one of those, and they are fabulous.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. And I've watched Twitch podcasts with her where she just goes through and places little things and I want to adjust this light, and my mind just kind of, boggles a little bit. And
Yeah.
my
No,
eyes
she's
glaze
amazing.
over and think that, she's speaking a different language. Well,
Yeah.
she does, but my point. But,
Yeah.
my admiration for those guys is boundless, and I can't imagine how they do it. So anyone who can create a mod for knuckleheads like me to tell the people how to use it, I'm fine with. Hey, you guys are great. I love it.
Well,
And-
I think, Cal, that you're providing an invaluable service.
for sure.
Because one of the things that I would say is what you're producing is more than a review. Okay, I get the sense that with the amount of time that you're putting into each one of these videos you're putting up, it's not really a review as much as it is an analysis, because I think to some degree that's what's lacking. There are plenty of people out there who put out really great mods that show us, or videos that show us all the features of a mod.
Right.
But I don't get the impression that they're always digging in deep enough to find out what the pitfalls are of some of these things, or what the trade-offs are, or what are we sacrificing by using this mod versus this mod. My feeling is that your videos are getting to that level of depth, which is really what people require. I think that's what people need now. I would rather see a series of review type videos where we're getting deep enough in to understand how this is going to affect our game, as opposed to just how is it going to look in game. I've noticed that in your evaluation of Claralux, and also your evaluation of Dynavision and Imaginator and so forth. I had started using Imaginator and Dynavision before I actually saw your video, and then after watching your video, I was like, oh, I think I made the right choice here. You know, like it just sort of reinforced my feeling that I was making the right choice by using those mods in place of an ENB for my particular purposes. So I really appreciate the content you're putting out there because I think it's very thoughtful.
Dynavision and Imaginator.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sound like company names from the future.
If you know, I'm gonna piggyback on that a little bit. I told Stu this earlier, but you know, as a previous software tester, I can tell you that you know there's really nothing more valuable than someone who really knows what to test. You know, providing that technical feedback is way better than, you know, this doesn't work. You know?
Can you fix it? It didn't work for me.
You know. So I absolutely, the work that you do as a tester, testing all this stuff is invaluable.
Well, thank you guys. I appreciate that. You know, it's that was part of the reason why I started the guide, is that I want to play Skyrim again, and I'm going to put out a guide that's not just showing, you know, pretty pictures and tell you what I think is nice. I'm going to get down into my thought process on why I choose mods, because I've, you know, cut my teeth enough on Fallout New Vegas and Fallout 3 to get a good understanding of all the tools.
Right.
Let's go ahead and do this for Skyrim and really get in depth and tell you what I'm thinking and why I choose mods, not just, you know, I'm choosing this or I'm choosing that and move forward with that. But I want to be able to, you know, present a whole complete package to someone so they understand the game. And, you know, I will show mods that don't, you know, necessarily fit my play style, or I'll choose to use something else. But you've seen it, you've got the options, and here's why I think they're good or why I think they're bad. And that is an informed decision that you can make as a mod user. And that's what my guide is for the end user.
Right.
And
Cal, I'd like to thank you right now for the few hours of sleep that I had every day are now going to be gone because I'll be in watching all of your guide videos. So thanks for that. Next time we're on, I'll look a little bit more bleary-eyed and perhaps sound a little scary. But truly, since I'm just getting into it, thank you for providing such good guidance, because otherwise I'm sure that I would hit all the pitfalls that you're talking about.
You know, and sadly, in the course of doing this, you do run into problems, and you can't test everything for every eventuality. And Vivid Weathers was a good example of that, is that I'm running into issues with Claralux. Vivid Weathers drives Claralux insane. And I touched on it briefly in the Vivid Weathers that, hey, this is something I'm noticing, and it could be a problem. I sent the message off to Mike Goodeye, the author of Claralux, Imaginator, and Dynavision. Great guy.
My slow guy?
My slow guy. He is my slow guy. You're so amazingly slow.
Ladies and gentlemen,
in XCOM 2.
That's a reference to the Dirty Weasel XCOM Let's Play, where he's got a feature character in there too. But you know, he's a heavy weapon guy, right? Isn't he the Grenadier now? So he has an excuse to be slow.
Yeah, exactly. But I sent a message to him saying, hey, this is what I'm noticing. I don't know what's causing it, but I sent the message off to him. Mangaclub, the author of Vivid Weathers, is aware of it because he and I discussed it away from YouTube and all that other stuff on the Nexus forums, and he's looking into it. So the community will fix this, and they do interact very, very well with each other. So, you know, hopefully that will get ironed out, or they'll figure out some fix for that. But you know, great mod, Claralux, but it may cause problems with Vivid Weathers or vice versa. So you're always trying to adjust, and sometimes you may find something that just doesn't work well, even though you don't see any interaction between the two.
Right.
Either in TS5 Edit or in Loot or anything else, or Mod Organized shows there's no interaction. Yeah, but it obviously is.
And there's obviously something going on.
It's a freaking miracle how this all works. When you consider that this is just like a loose affiliation of people who give a shit about the game making stuff, it's incredible how well it works.
Well, it works because everyone has a common base, and that's that they like the game.
Yeah.
And they want to work with each other. I mean, I think the mod community, insofar as modders go, are probably some of the most giving, understanding, and want to work with each other type of people without actually knowing each other.
Exactly.
Type of people.
Yeah. And Joe speaks from experience because he's fallen into this mode lately as he's been working on, patching our game for other mods. So I mean, you just want them to work together because you want other people to have the same experience that you want to have.
It's like, this is a great mod. I like this a lot. I want to be able to have these two work together.
Yes, exactly.
And it's a great community insofar as that goes. But to your point, Dirty Weasel or Cal, whichever you prefer.
Dirty Cal. Dirty
Cal. There we go. We'll go with that. They sometimes it just doesn't work because there's just so much going on.
Is there a review of House of Troubles coming sometime soon?
Well, I don't know.
Right now it's not all that terribly complicated. So
it really isn't.
A lot to review.
Our mod's pretty uncomplicated.
I would love to see those characters that you created in the Let's Play appear in the House of Troubles, and so people can interact with Robard and Stax and all these other characters, somehow make an appearance in the House of Trouble. So you could go in and maybe get a quest from Robard to go collect a bunch of skooma recipes or something like that. I would love to see that, and that would be, a gameplay addition. I'm big into adding more content in the game, more than just making it pretty. It seems like the guide is very focused on appearance right now, but eventually it'll go into, adding more gameplay into the game.
Right.
That, interactions with, people that you may want to see. And that's something I would be really happy to look at. And, people have always asked for, titular characters from other Let's Plays. Oh, I would love to see them in my game. Can you make them a follower? Well, how about making them a quest giver or someone you can interact with at the House of Troubles? And I think that would, really add a lot of interaction between you, your audience, and the characters that people create that they love, to be able to interact with other characters that they know from within the universe of Skyrim.
Yeah, I love that idea too, and that has been part of our discussion here. About what is Phase 2 and Phase 3 look like, and we're introducing some quest structure in Phase 2, and we're also independently working on kind of standalone NPC followers for these characters. But we're at the moment we're working on cracking the code when it comes to quest building and custom dialogue, and that's where we're at right now, and it's definitely part of our vision. We just don't have a concept for how hard it's going to be or how long it's going to take us to complete, but I would love to see that as well. So.
Yeah, we've got the House of Troubles really opens itself up to all sorts of good stuff. And unique characters, voiced characters, quest builder or givers, all
Guilds.
That good stuff. Guilds. Oh,
yeah.
There's a good idea.
Sure.
Absolutely. So
music lessons.
Why not? Why not? The acoustics are so great in there.
They are. Robard loves them.
Yeah, he does. He loves the acoustics at the House of Troubles. So even though the audience is weird and idiosyncratic, he doesn't care. He likes the acoustics.
So there's I think there's a lot of potential in the House of Troubles. We see it, and we definitely welcome any suggestions and or
comments, feedback, endorsements.
Yeah.
Yes, I think folks can look forward to in the future seeing a set of 5 Fables action figures that they can play with.
Oh, there you go.
Yay.
3D printable.
A PAX plushie. That's what everyone says.
Patch
Snuggles with at night. PAX plushie.
There you go. Perfect.
Yes, because everyone will be
You
ordering
squeeze
their
him and he says, "Yar."
yar.
I love that. That's awesome.
A life-size sleeping pillow.
Yar. Oh,
Oh.
I don't know. That might be
I
scary.
think you could pull off Yar.
Yar.
It'd be hard to squeeze a doll and have it say RK's balls. You could try.
Depends where you squeeze it.
You got to pull the string. Yeah, that's one where you pull the string, you know, and it says.
I'm not going there.
Yar. Yar.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, I'm not getting my wife a Stacks plushie.
Yar.
I know.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No.
You know, we're always, you know, screwing around with different ideas here, and whether or not it's in a mod or whether it appears on the website or, you know, in the Twitter feed or whatever, we're always messing around with new concepts and ideas.
And some of them just ought to be April Fool's jokes, right? Like the Stacks plushie.
yeah, why
Yar.
not?
Oh no, that's got to be for real.
That's got to be for real.
All right.
We got to make
All
that
right,
happen.
so start calling manufacturers. I'm going to make this happen. So
Well, Cal, I don't know about everybody else here, but thank you. Thank you for all you do. They've already said it. I'm going to say it again. Sleepless nights are ahead, as I learned.
Yep, we'll be getting bi-weekly updates from Matt as he begins to explore modding.
As I
Yeah.
wake up.
Exactly. He has started a new character and has
Inga.
begun loading mods and has gotten far enough down the line to experience some errors related to said mods,
Hooray!
which
Yay.
means that he's essentially popped his cherry.
He's doing something right.
Exactly.
What have I screwed up?
Oh, man.
If only Cal had gone through this.
Yeah. Well, you know, thank you so much, Cal, for joining us tonight. It's been really great and informative to talk to you about all this. And rest assured, we're going to be all over your channel in the coming weeks and months as you kind of continue to create these things. And also your XCOM Let's Play as well.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, you know, on the promise that the Character Crusade team is going to be part of your XCOM squads.
Robart's overrated.
No, he's not. No.
Robart's a lurker. Come on. He's just camping up
He's
in
an
corners.
amazing sniper. Come on.
He's too busy giving away his position by smoking every time he's about
Although,
ready to take a shot.
Yeah, I took damage in the first episode. That wasn't good, but still.
You're the only one to take damage in the first episode.
Yeah, but I also had a bigger kill count than anyone else. So. Yeah.
I
kill
wish I
count's
could tell
bigger
you
than
when
your kill
Matt
count.
and Joe will make appearances, but because the way the character pool works, I'm not sure when people will show up. But I want to get you guys in, and when I get all three of you together, I will definitely balance you out so you can make your own team.
Yeah, let's
with,
have a special
somebody else.
Gentleman Bastards episode with all three Character Crusade.
Oh, the fact that it's random is just fun enough.
He's an awesomer.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Can't not watch.
Totally.
So thank you so much, Cal.
Very, very glad to be here. It has been a pleasure talking to you guys, and it's always nice to talk to other modders and lovers of Skyrim.
Yeah, well, this has been great fun and super informative, and you can look forward to us contacting you again in the future for another episode because, you know, this game's not going away, and I think even after the next version of this game comes out, this game's still not going to be going away. So I think there's a lot more goodness to come. So
Absolutely.
For sure.
Thanks, Cal.
Thanks, guys. Matt, Stu,
Perfect.
Joe, thank you very much for having me on.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And good night to you, sir.
All right. Well, we have a couple of reviews. It's unspeakably awesome. And there's a couple here. We're going to read through. I will admit the lost episode archives. One befell the hard drive failure. So we're gonna do another one here. Our good and longtime friend Matt Petrozelli has left us a review. Gamers with a great passion for getting everything out of Skyrim. 5 massive glowing stars. This is a really great podcast. The hosts provide really good ideas and inspiration for how you can create a very immersive experience for yourself in the open world of Skyrim. I enjoy listening to the podcast and hearing about the many ways they have found to broaden and deepen their gameplay experience playing Skyrim. And now, since they read 5-star reviews in the show, Staying Alive by the Bee Gees. Matt Petrozelli, I may have to kill you. We'll find a way to make this entertaining, though.
It's not very nice, Matt.
No, it isn't really very nice. In-game. He's a really nice guy, very capable, who's also given us a 5-star review, so I probably shouldn't do anything untoward. Thanks, Matt, for the 5-star review. We'll figure out something fun to do with the Bee Gees lyrics here. Staying alive. That's a problem that I have with most of my characters, is staying alive.
I think that's probably why he picked that.
Probably why he picked it. Yes, absolutely.
I really want to hear you hit those high
You can
notes.
tell by the way I use my walk that I'm a woman's man. No time to talk. Music loud and women warm. I've kicked around since I was been kicked around. Oh, sorry. Let's get that right. I've been kicked around. I've been kicked around since I was born. And now it's all right. It's okay. You may look the other way. We can try to understand the New York Times effect on a man. Yes. Whether you're a brother, whether you're a mother, you're staying alive, stay alive. Feel the city breaking, and everybody's shaking. And we're staying alive.
And
staying
we're
alive.
staying alive.
Oh,
Staying alive.
Shatner has entered the room.
Staying alive. Staying alive.
Was that your face?
Staying alive.
I'm sorry, the way that you're
Staying
doing it is
alive.
just really kind of wrong and creepy, but
Well, now I've
get low and get high.
Get high.
And if I can't get either,
And
I
if
really
I
try.
can't get
You know what?
either.
I've never really done an analysis of the lyrics here. This is an interesting song.
I'd like
Got
to
the wings of heaven on my shoes. I'm a dancing man and just can't lose.
You know, it's all right. It's okay.
Okay, you need to stop that now.
Matt is getting
What?
way more than he bargained for. He didn't copy
What?
that many lyrics.
I'll live to see another day. We can try to understand.
Vasily. One staying
pin,
alive. One staying alive.
One BG only.
Feel the city breaking. It's just, and everybody's shaking. Yeah. Whether you're a brother, whether you're a mother, you're staying alive. Staying
And then he
alive.
broke into Robart.
Robart's grave. Feel the city breaking. Everybody's shaking. And we are staying alive. Staying alive. Matthew?
Thus endeth the dramatic reading of
Yes.
Staying Alive.
Man.
Yes, we'll make sure that the show notes contain Matt Petrozelli's detailed contact information. If you'd like to send any hate mail, please feel free to send it right along to him. There will also be a form on the website where you can select Matt Petrozelli for delivery of said comments. So feel free to select Matt in the subject line.
Do not send glitter letters to Matt Petrozelli.
If only I could do a Leonard Nimoy version.
Yeah,
work
I
on
don't
that.
know how you'd pull that
He
off.
did do a pretty happening Hobbit.
Yeah,
Did he?
maybe for next
Yes,
time.
he did.
Maybe I blocked that out.
Yeah, there's a traumatic memory block that goes along with him singing The Hobbit and the Star Wars Christmas special.
Bilbo.
Oh my god!
It's like the most awesomest thing.
Moving
ever.
right along.
I would like to get out of that traumatic memory block.
Sorry.
And we have another review from Trexel Kiventith. Awesome Elder Scroll RPGers. This is an excellent podcast for anyone who loves the Elder Scrolls games and in particular Skyrim. It is also a great resource for anyone who loves a good story, including, but not limited to, fantasy readers, writers, RPGers, and anyone who falls near those categories. I know I'm falling near those categories all the time. I love the interplay between all the hosts and their guests. Please check out their podcast. I'm sure you will love it as much as I do. Thanks, Stu, Joe, and Matt for the great podcast. And P.S. When are we going to get our Naked Nord t-shirts?
Holy shnikey. That is a work in progress, my friend.
Keep your eyes peeled for the Naked Nord t-shirts.
That's correct. I will tell you that I have established a Spreadshirt store in which these articles will be sold.
Yar.
Yes, I have not uploaded any designs yet, but that is in progress.
Yar.
So look for future announcements. We are yes. That is part of the plan. In fact, this is a great segue.
I'm glad
Matt
to have
Kelly.
made that segue for you.
This is such a great segue into the next topic of discussion, which is Trexel, yet again.
Again?
Yes, again, because he provided a generous donation to our Patreon campaign, which pushed us up to the $50 level, which means it's time, insert war horn here,
Bum, bum, bum.
for us to put our money where our mouth is. Our first,
I'm not putting any money in my mouth.
well, that would just be gross.
Yeah.
But still, I
Just
mean,
quarters.
metaphorically speaking,
All right. Metaphors are okay.
yes, we had set a goal for ourselves to reach $50 a month in recurring donations on Patreon, and once reaching that level, we would produce content weekly. That
Content
was
of some ilk.
content of some sort. Now, since we started this campaign, we've already, to some extent, exceeded that in that we're producing not only the podcast, but also the Let's Play. However, as you all know, the Let's Play is intermittent. We don't have a release schedule there. So sometimes it comes out weekly, sometimes it comes out monthly. Who knows, right?
But we do have
whenever
interrupt journals.
That's true. We are producing all of this written material thanks to Joe, which is coming out in addition to that. But I think that it's incumbent upon us to come up with some kind of a method for producing content on a weekly basis.
I agree. Let's do that.
We are going to do this. We're doing this. So I think that what we're going to be seeing over the coming weeks here is the Gentleman Bastards coming up with a plan for how we're going to produce that content. I know that Trexel was very much hoping to have a weekly podcast. I don't know that we're going to be able to do that on a regular basis, but it's going to be some combination of both between regular podcast episodes, because Matt is embarking on this mission to actually read listener fiction.
Selections from listener fiction.
Selections from listener fiction as in-betweeners once in a while. And then we'll also have episodes of the Let's Play. So we are going to be producing some new content, ladies and gentlemen, and Matt will be making announcements about that coming up in the future here as we ramp up production. So we just wanted to say a big thank you to everybody for all the support on Patreon. Those recurring donations just make all the difference in the world.
And we want to continue to give back in these various ways from reaching some of these target things. And while it means a little something extra from us, it's a thank you for all the extra you're given in Patreon and everywhere else.
Yeah. And you know what? I think because of your investment in us that we've been able to not only do the podcast, but do all this other great content. So, the stories by Joe, the mods that we've been producing. We've published 5 mods now this year, which is more than we were ever expecting to be able to do.
500% more.
Yes. The Let's Play, and now Matt's readings. I really just thank you from the bottom of our hearts for the support, because it's really the reason that we're able to do all these wonderful things, plus bringing on more great guests for you to listen to and really further explore this wonderful game and all that it has to offer. So thank you all very much from us.
And to Trexel for pushing us to the $50 a month limit.
Yep. It's amazing.
Level,
Yeah,
not
it
limit.
is.
There's no limit. There's no limit.
No limit.
limits. Let's be clear.
And when we get to the $1 million a month mark, we'll do something every single day.
Every day. Yes. Daily Skyrim. That would
But
be.
I do believe, and whether or not this actually makes the cut, I don't know, but that also puts Drexel at
Yeah. You know what?
His own show.
Yeah.
Whoa, hold the phone. 3 things for Trexel today?
It's true. It's true.
Dude.
Now, giving at this level means that Trexel is entitled to direct an episode. So you know where to find us, sir. Reach out to us. Use the web form.
Let us know what we need to do.
Yeah, let us know what you'd like to cover. It also
Is this
entitles
content
you...
or is this blocking and set design and everything?
This is content. This is content. But we will do a character critique. We'll discuss in depth some kind of character concept that you want to talk about if it's a character you're playing or thinking about playing. We will also allow you to direct an episode, which basically means you get to pick the topic that we cover during our play theory segment. So reach out to us on the website. We thank you so much. And we will produce that episode in your honor. So we look forward to that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's our first
It's not a
opportunity
rush,
to do that.
right?
So
So take some time. Think about what you want to do with both the content and your character. Might be nice to cover them both in the same episode, obviously.
yeah, we can do that.
May not be in the next few episodes if he's not ready, but hey, we're ready.
Absolutely. And as always, check out the website. Use our form if you've got some fan fiction you want to submit, anything like that. Feel free to submit that to us, and you can reach out to Matt on the Facebook site. Also, if you haven't started following us on Twitter, feel free to do that as well. I'm putting out almost daily tweets, kind of updating folks on what the progress is on each episode of Five Fables, as well as what we've got going on with our mod series and with the podcast. So if you're looking for regular updates, feel free to do that as well.
And that would be
That would be at Character Wonk. And it's linked also from the website, from the Facebook page, I would imagine.
There's a bunch of stuff linked primarily from our site that's easier to get to from charactercrusade.com. Adding links onto the Facebook main page, and then adding quite a number of new content links onto the Facebook group this coming weekend. That'll make it a lot easier for people to jump right out of there and into Instagram and into Twitter and wherever else we might be.
Yep. If you're interested in contributing to either one of our Patreon campaigns, you can find links to both of those on Character Crusade, or you can go to fivefables.com. That will get you there as well.
Now, an important note, I had a couple people ask me in the last couple weeks about why we're not monetizing, again, the Five Fables. Can you give another quick rundown as to why that is?
Yeah, we have elected to not monetize the Five Fables Let's Play because we're interested in keeping it as immersive as we possibly can. This has never been about a money grab for us, and in the interest of making it immersive, I really wanted to have an opportunity to take the Let's Play beyond what I could do with just the music libraries provided by Maker Studios, who is our YouTube partner network. So in the interest of trying to add some kind of real original artistic quality to what we were doing, I established a partnership with a recording studio, and we're getting access to a great library of music for them. So when you see a banner ad, you'll see only one banner ad per episode that comes out. If you click on that banner ad, all the proceeds from that click are going to go to the artists at Cryo Chamber Studios, who have been producing that music. So it's your way of being able to actually donate to musicians who make great music that we're using in the story. So it's amazing. So all the proceeds on YouTube from Five Fables go to the artists who create the music we use in the story. So
awesome. Thanks.
Yeah. Well, dear listener, you've whiled away another hour, or possibly two, listening to this podcast. We would like to thank fans of the show for your faithful support and continued encouragement. Your enthusiasm is the lifeblood of this podcast. And we mean that. Life's blood. Seriously, that's kind of gruesome, actually. Life's blood.
But
anyway,
but appropriate given our guest.
Yes. Whether your support comes to us through dollars in a donation through Patreon, or whether it's through support by giving us a review on iTunes, or just giving us a recommendation to your friends and family or other such like-minded people. We appreciate it all. You can contact us through our website at charactercrusade.com. And until next time, remember, it is not about the objective. It is about the journey. So go forth and experience.
That'll be a really nice cover right into the
yeah.
beginning of the horse hoof prints. Ooh, I got to cool off after that intro.
Okay, now music is going, blah, 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 horses, some yelling, things like that, some shit burning, that kind of thing.
Form up.
Hold fast! Was that you saying that?
Yeah, that's me.
That's what I thought.
Yelling in my basement.
Yeah. Which is awesome. What did the kids think upstairs?
Form up, lads!
I always make sure that no one's home when I'm doing that kind of foolishness. They already think I'm